Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and for anyone who is new, welcome, and welcome to the first official episode of my new series, The Urban Gardener. For this episode, we will be focusing on transplanting houseplants, specifically from pot to pot. The plants I will be using in this episode are my lovely English ivy in front of me, as well as some devil's ivy's cuttings that I propagated earlier in the year and are ready to be transplanted. Before we get into the video, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. If you want to see more from my channel, hit that subscribe button down below. Don't forget to turn on the post notifications so you always know when I post a new video. I post a new video every Tuesday and Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And with that, guys, let's get into the episode. Okay, so you're going to need a few tools to accomplish your transplant. You're going to need a pair of gardening gloves. You're going to need a plant to transplant. I'm using my English ivy, also known as a heterohelix. You're going to need a bigger pot that you're transplanting your plant into. I'm using this red one. Unfortunately, there are no holes at the bottom to help with water irrigation, so I'm using these chunks of clay that I found outside, and they will prevent water buildup, decaying my plant's roots. You're also going to need some soil. I'm using this natural and organic young plant mix I got at my gardening center. And finally, you're going to need a pair of scissors. Okay, so my first tip for you guys when doing this is to choose to do it on a day that's not so windy or doing it inside. You will see in just a second here. There it goes. My poor little ivy gets knocked down. The wind was just not being kind to me. So that's my first tip, is to make sure you're doing this in an area where you're not getting blown by the wind or you're not getting rained on, something like that. So the first thing I'm doing here is I put my clay bits down. You can use rocks that you get at the craft store, or even like if you've ever had a fish tank, those rocks that you put on the bottom, those would work as well. You just want a barrier between the bottom of your planter and the plant. That is going to help with irrigation of the water. Some planters actually come with little holes already built in. Mine did not, so that is why I have done that. I just want to explain that a little more. So you're going to want to put your soil on top of the rocks, or in my case, the clay bits. And this is going to be the barrier between where you're putting your plant down and where the bottom of your tin essentially is now, because you have that barrier. So I basically filled my planter up 3/4 of the way, just so that I have that barrier, and now I'm going to pat that down. I want it to be solid because I don't really want the roots to come down onto that clay bit, even though they might end up at a certain point, but then I will probably have to transplant again. So now I'm going to take my ivy out of the store container, and you will see I struggle with this for quite a while. This is why I was transplanting it in the first place. It was too big for this little container. The roots were coming out the bottom, and you really want to be gentle while you're doing this. This is such a delicate part because you don't want to damage any of the root system. So it's really turning, pushing, turning, pushing, but being really gentle because you want to keep that root system intact. But this is why you're transplanting it into a bigger pot anyways, because now that the root system have more space, they're going to open up. They're going to be a bit more free, and this is going to allow your plant to grow. This plant would not be able to grow anymore in this little store container. In fact, it would probably become unhappy and potentially die if left any longer. So again, there goes the wind, knocking that poor little ivy over. I do not know how it survived today. It was being whipped around. Anyway, now that the plant is in where I want it to be, I'm going to start filling in the soil. This is where you just want to put it around. You're not patting it down. You want it to be really loose. And you're just starting to fill it in. You want to fill it right to the top of, obviously mine was in a circle container, so my soil and root system were in a circle. You want to fill it right up to the base of the plant. You don't want the leaves to go under because obviously the leaves or the flowers are what's pretty. So you want to just fill it up to the base where all the roots are covered. They can move and be free and grow. And that's going to allow your plant to grow bigger and be happier and healthier, and eventually you might even be able to transplant it into a bigger pot depending on the type of plant you're using. Ivies can get very large if they're happy. I hope this ivy is going to be bigger because I do eventually want to move it to a bigger pot that I have in mind. But there goes the wind again. This is why I was saying you don't want to do it on a windy day, because you're going to be transplanting loose soil and it's going to blow everywhere. Made a huge mess, I have to say. So now that I have it all in the pot, I have the perfect amount of soil, that's when I'm going to move on to the next step. Okay, so the next step in transplanting is to start patting down that soil that you just put in. You want to pat it down around the base. Don't press too hard when you're right beside the plant, but just all around it. You want to pat it down. You're going to lift it up a bit when you put in the water at the end, but now you're just patting it down. You want to leave a good inch or two from where the soil is to the rim of your planter, because you're going to fill that up with water, and because that soil isn't built in, it's not like settled, I guess is the right word, it's going to lift up with the water. So you want to have a good 2-inch rim. As you can see, I have a good inch or so that when I put in the water, it won't overflow right out of my container. And I also was able to straighten out my plant while doing that, because you're pushing it back up, you're pushing on the soil and giving it some stability. I'm just going to put some water on my plant here. As you can see, I'm going really slowly all around because the water needs to seep into the soil. This is dry soil, so like I said, it's going to lift up. It's going to find little holes where it can sink into the soil, and that's how your plant's going to absorb it. You want to keep your soil damp or moist, because that's how your plant's going to absorb it. It's really dry here, so you can see the water hasn't soaked in just yet. But once you water it, say every day or every week or whenever you choose to water your plant, then that's going to keep it moist and it's not going to be such a big deal. I'm just kind of poking a hole in it with this little tool. I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video, this isn't really a necessary tool. I just like poking holes around so that the water has little areas to seep into. That is totally optional. It doesn't really do anything, but I just like doing it personally because I'm going to be moving this in a second. So again, I'm just adding a little more water and letting that seep into the soil. This is a bigger pot that I have it in, so it needed a little bit more water. Again, this will all depend on the size of your pot, your plant, and everything. So here it is, all finished and ready to be placed in its new home in my house, and I'm super happy with it. And now I've got to clean up this giant mess the wind caused. Okay guys, so for this next example, I'm going to be transplanting my Devil's Ivy cuttings. Devil's Ivy is also called Golden Pothos or Epipremnum aureum. These are baby cuttings. I've been propagating them probably since January, so that's why they are ready to go. I have them in this temporary black pot because they were meant to be transplanted last week, but I didn't have my English ivy and I didn't want to film without that. So that is why they're in this temporary black pot for now. Also, you guys can see for this example, I actually used rocks instead of the clay bits because I only had about 10 rocks left while I was doing this. And because of the state of the world, it is quite hard to go and get craft supplies and everything like that. So I only used the rocks I had left for this smaller pot. But again, it's just another example. You can use the rocks that go at the bottom of a fish tank. You can use rocks you can get at Michael's. You can use rocks you find outside. You can use clay bits, anything just to kind of keep that barrier at the bottom so that when water sits there, it doesn't damage your plant's roots. I'm not going to talk for the whole time for this example. I'm just going to let you guys listen to some music and watch, maybe plant along, whatever you feel like. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you later on in the video. enjoyed the video. I really hope you enjoyed this first episode of The Urban Gardener. Look out for the next episode coming on June 13th. That's a Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. With that, guys, if you like this video, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. If you want to see more from my channel, hit that subscribe button. But don't forget to turn on the bell icon so you always know when I post a new video. I post a new video every Tuesday and Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Milque and Luna love you all. Peace, hugs, and hippie love. Bye!